I want to give a big shout out to lprof007 for giving me a donation on Patreon. Thank you so much for your support. If you like my content and want to see my channel grow, please consider donating to me on Patreon. Any donation is gladly appreciated. Thank you.
Welcome to the world of Tales from the Trip.
This video will be a part 1 to a 2-part series on caffeine. I hope you enjoy. My sister and I decided to get what we thought might be a high one night in December and nearly died. I decided to take 16 caffeine pills with a 200 milligram amount of caffeine in each pill and drink a Diet Coke. My sister liked the idea because she thought it might be like speed. It was like hell. I shit and peed like a racehorse about 3 times. I also thought maybe consuming some good old water and some nourishing food might help, but everything that went into my body came back up. I had an intense headache and body temperature that seemed to range from boiling to Arctic freezing. I reached a point where I could not stop tremoring or shaking, and my heart was pounding out of my chest. I really thought I was going to die. My sister had taken half the amount that I did and saw what I was going through. I had called an ambulance and was carried out in a stretcher and just about bounced out of it from being unable to keep still. On the way to the hospital, I blacked in and out of consciousness, and the blackouts got longer and longer. I was given numerous amounts of shots and hooked up to hooplas of equipment and was told to drink charcoal or I would die. My sister, I later found out, went through the same thing just when I was hooked up to all the monitors and whatnot. We were both told that we could have died from the amount of caffeine that we had taken. My reason for telling this to whomever is reading: be aware of what you're taking and how much something can do to you. I just thought I would be very awake. It turns out I was almost asleep, permanently. This was the absolute most terrifying experience of my life. Life. What a word. So simple, so fragile. One chance to make the world and people around me a paradise full of joy and love, or screw up and be forced into a mind-shattering death wheel of excruciating pain and agony. Recalling this experience is difficult enough without even having to type it, going through every heart-pounding detail. This will be quite long and detailed, but it is worth the read. Not every detail can be accurately recounted, as this was more than 2 years ago, but it will be very close. A date that will forever be burned into my memory. Me and the boys ended up at a bash on this particular night. Not much of a bash though, about 30 bodies. All the normal bash stuff on the go and whatnot. So a few of my buddies go out to purchase some fine Mary Jane when I discover I have forgotten my wallet. Big problem there. No money, no weed, no beers, and no trip. Until someone suggests that I go to a local drugstore and get some free caffeine pills. Take a couple packs, they would be a good trip, he says. I had taken a few before and liked the benefits from them, so I decided a few more couldn't hurt. Me thinking it's just caffeine after all, and maybe it'll give me a fun trip. Welcome to hell, is what he should have said. The pills were easily gotten, and soon I returned to the party to pop them. The time was 10 p.m. 24 in all. That's 4,800 milligrams. I have read online that 4,500 milligrams has been described as the lethal dose. Over the course of 5 minutes, all 24 were within me, just waiting to release their hell upon me. At 11 p.m., me and a few boys leave the party, and by this time, I was on a decent trip, if I could call it that. I felt as if I could run forever, so I did. I ran for a good 20 minutes, just because I had that much energy. It was incredible how hyper I was. My speech was sped up significantly, as well as everything else I did. It was as if my mind worked 5 times faster than it normally would. Stuff just didn't seem right. I came back to find my friends, and they were just about to go into Subway. This is where the gates of hell slowly creak open. We go in, and I sit down as my friends buy some food. One of them comes to sit next to me and asks why I was making my right knee jerk up and down. I told him I wasn't trying to do that and had control, but not much over the movement. I forced this movement to stop for a short while, but then it started again. I decided that we should leave. We meet with more people at this point who had been kicked out of the party and walk to an abandoned train tracks to jump over a cliff into trees for fun. It is fun, also very stupid, but fun nonetheless. Stuff is starting to get really fucked up now. Everything is going so fast, it was overwhelming. I put my right hand into my right pocket and it started to shake slowly at first, but then violently. I had very little control and could not make it stop. Right then, I knew I was fucked up bad, so I just left and went home. I think that's the only time I ever ran all the way home from there. I got home. Home is where comfort is supposed to be. There was none to be found here. Relatives were over when I arrived around 12 a.m. I had to force myself considerably to make it look as if something wasn't wrong with me. I spoke to my uncle for about 3 minutes and got by that fairly well, or so it seemed to me anyway. By the time 12:40 a.m. came, the gates of hell were wide open. My relatives were long gone, everyone else asleep. Not me though. I wouldn't sleep for a long time. My temperature was through the roof. My heart was pounding insanely, non-stop. I honestly thought I would have a heart attack. Barfing had begun. I drank water, I ate a little, then it all came back up. I wanted to go outside and run. This didn't help. It was colder outside, but that didn't really help either. I would run back and forth between my computer room and my bedroom, both luckily downstairs, so many times I can't remember. I was frantic, trying very hard to calm myself, but at this point, this seemed like an impossibility. This was bad. Very, very bad. How I felt was just so wrong, but not the sort of wrongness or dissociation from your normal mind, like say a DXM or an LSD trip will induce. I mean wrong. I felt very sick and just not right, like my body was shouting as loud as it could, yelling, "You're a fucking idiot. This isn't right. You're gonna die." It was like this and much worse for a horrifyingly long while. I talked to a couple of my friends who were now home on ICQ. They said call poison control right away. I said no, I'm not getting in trouble for this. I'll just sit it through the night. Then the dry heaves began. Dry heaves are not fun. Anyone who has experienced true dry heaves can tell you this with a sharp look in their eyes. Bad was all around. Black spots of fuzz clouded my vision at certain times. Just wrong everywhere. Eventually, because of my friends on ICQ, some called to see just how fucked up I was. They kept calling, and I think the third time they called my parents. They had the phone off the hook too because they suck a lot. "I took a lot of pills tonight," I said, and I heard a phone click down. They bitched, they yelled, they looked on in disgust. A little sympathy, not much, and tears. They got ready to take me to the hospital. Even though this sucks so much, what my friends really did was save my life. I was fucked by this point. I mean, really fucked. Beyond fucked. So fucked, it terrified me. This is now around 1:30 a.m. I honestly thought I was going to die now. I was just too fucked up. Here's the sickest part to this tale. My parents actually took their sweet time getting dressed and driving me to the hospital. The entire time, I was dry heaving with my head in a shopping bag, beyond fucked up. And here was my dad driving maybe 40 kilometers per hour down a road where the speed limit is 80, just for the hell of it. To make me learn my lesson, I guessed. Fucking bastard. I get to the emergency room, more waiting, about 20 minutes goes by. I talked to a nurse, told her my dose and what I took and stuff like that, and she said go wait. I could have nearly cried. I was just too fucked up now, far too fucked to even want to be alive, but I kept going until this nightmare was to end in any way. At about 2:30 a.m., I get put into a room. I have to stand up and give a piss test in the bathroom, then back to this room. They found some weed, so a week later, I got bitched at for that. I am given a bedpan to barf in. This bedpan was changed at least 25 times over the course of me being in the hospital. I lay down on a table bed thing in this room barfing in agony. This trip is in no way fun at all. Not one stain of this experience was enjoyable. It was all hell. I remember looking at a sad expression on my mother's face as she watched me barf into the pan and make a lot of jerking motions with my whole body until I am seen by a doctor. That was probably in the top 3 worst 20 minutes I've ever had. I was told it was too late for a stomach pump, so they had to act fast. He quickly got me a wheelchair and IV, then escorted me to the real emergency room where a few other sick people are. I somehow got out of my clothes and into the sheet covering thing and onto a bed. I am immediately taken a blood sample, then people start injecting lots of drugs into my IV tube. A heart rate monitor with 3 suction electrode things are attached to specific points on my chest. That's a frightening sound. It was just going too fast and didn't seem normal, because it wasn't. And then I just lay there, barfing, listening, going in and out between periods of black and sight, warmer than I've ever been, and in great pain. My gut hurt a lot. What might have been 2 hours of pure hell, nothing can describe what I felt during this time. I was in the hospital for 3 nights, including the first one. I slid in and out of consciousness the first night, terrible agony, barfing all over myself, uncontrollable movements, glimpses of a few people, vague words, and then blackness. Not sleep, blackness. It was as if I were still awake and dreaming at the same time. Time seemed to pass normally, but it was all just black, black everywhere. I was so scared. I'm not one to be scared of most anything, but I will admit, I was terrified. The next 2 nights and days had me recovering. More drugs, more people, more terrible, terrible memories. I was seen by a psychiatrist. She told me I had to be suicidal to do what I had done, so I complained, but I was basically near ignored. I had to see her again every 3 weeks for 3 months. I was told over these 2 days just how close I had come to death. So close, so very close. It gives me the shivers. I was also told how extremely lucky I was that I got into the hospital and not stayed home all night. Doctors said that there was a 90% chance that I would have died. I nearly died there on the spot. I lost all trust and respect for my parents, for most of my relatives, from other people. And to this day, they still have this story brought up when I am discussed by people. I still carry the mental scars of this experience, but I survived. I was restricted from low amounts of caffeine for 4 months, just for safety. I experienced several extremely painful chest pains after this, which never occurred before this incident, but I am alive. Since this experience, I have come very close to completely recovering, but not all the way. I have grown and matured. I refer to this experience as the Remembrance Day weekend for remembering hell. For the last 2 November 9ths, I have celebrated my life, and that it is still on the go and will continue to do so. Life is no joke. When it's gone, it's gone.